Good morning, everyone. I hope you are all well. It's taking some teachings that I have been speaking for the last 6 months to the next level. So let us focus. Just breathe out and let's bring our focus to this moment and sort of let go of everything that happened today or this morning. Maybe it's the rush. It's been a full day and one is exhausted. But thank you for making the effort to being here. So we kind of breathe and we let that go. So if you're in front of your shrines, have already lit or you're lighting your shrines, and you put yourself in God's presence intentionally. And by doing that, by lighting the candle and lighting the incense, or just sitting quietly, like today I'm in front of my desk, we intentionally connect with God and say, God, we're here, we're present, we're in your presence, and we wish to commune with you energetically through prayer or just sitting quietly. And right now, I'm praying for wisdom and guidance, that as what I say will be what He would like me to say, and for Him to guide me. So now that we've sort of settled, over the last 6 months, I have tried to guide us on how do we connect further with God. So I wanted to recap a few things and then take it a little step further. So there's a lot of new people. What I share grows over time, and you kind of have to go week after week as I sort of build on what I've been saying and go deeper with it and further explain. So if you're new and you're able to get to the recordings and you like what I say, it will help understand what I'm saying now and help you grow. So there was a question and answer last week. One question that gave me the opportunity to go back and really explain again and in depth one of the central things I wish to share with you and have discussed at length. The question was, can you explain the different names of God and their meanings? This is a really excellent question. There are many different ways to pray. You can pray traditionally. You just say a prayer, God help me with this, this, and this. Or you could say, set prayers that are written by high priests or, an authority on how to go about saying it. And this is a way for us to connect with God, to be able to communicate with God. In the world today, we desire, a lot of people, to come to understand and to live in a greater meaning for our lives. This is often people who wish to connect to something deeper. And this is what calls a lot of people to study various spiritualities and religions. They kind of realize that there's a little more to this life than working, having families, getting up, going to sleep, and going about your everyday things. What's the purpose and what's the meaning? So there's a lot of great preachers who have a lot to say about that. What I wish to share and to impart on you and to help guide you is the things I've learned over 20 years on how to deepen one's connection. It's not just the mind, i.e. learning, reading a Bible, sacred text, speaking to people, asking questions. That is the path of wisdom and knowledge. It's important to have that. It's a spiritual path, and it helps, certainly, and I've certainly followed it, but it's half of it. The other half is actually trying to do the prayers, trying to make the effort to connect by putting in the time. It's not just studying, it's actually putting in the effort to do what you're studying. And ultimately, everything that we're due to study, everything in the Bible that's said, well, not everything, but most of the guidance that's said, that is for us to have a closer connection with God, how to become better people. Yes? By becoming better people, we grow in greater union with God, right? And the ultimate union is that when we die, we go to heaven in the Judeo-Christian Muslim religion, right? The three Abrahamic faiths have the same gods. God, Allah in Arabic, and then Jews have many different names, and for Christians it would be God the Father. Yes. So by growing and putting in the work, being charitable and loving and kind and sharing your wisdom and being helpful and all the good acts, yes? But there comes a fundamental problem. How do we change our habitual behaviors? How do we become a good person when for part of our life we might not have been a good person? Or if we've been good people, how do we become better people? How do we improve? It's not easy. And sadly, I have to say, it's really not through studying. No, it's shocking. Because that's the mind. You're using the mind. But behavior and thoughts and actions are energy. Manifestations of the conscious or unconscious mind and one's desires or will to do certain things or not do certain things. And they're ingrained on us from our culture, from our parents, from traumas we've had, or great things that have happened to us. It sets us on a certain path and we become a certain way. And the older we are, or the greater certain things had an impact on us, harder it is to change, or to grow better, or to focus on different things. One's spiritual path should evolve as one goes through life. There are people here who wish to embark on a path, who may have been turned off by institutionalized religions, and we may have been turned off, or viewed it's not for me, or I'm being rejected. And therefore, one starts disassociating with the religion because they think that the religion is, how it's presented is the religion. Or that particular priest, they see it as embodying the religion. No, it's a man. These are man-made institutions. How does one connect in this world with all its imperfections to get closer to the reality of what things really are. Things are not as solid as we think they are. So I'm in front of my desk. The wood I'm touching feels really solid. It's really not. We know by microscopes that it's actually not solid at all. Everything's moving in the wood. The electrons are spinning. There's nothing really solid in wood or even cement, right? This world is a lot of moving energy with different densities. So it feels very solid to us, very static. We feel very static in our thoughts and our emotions and who we think we are, who we ought to be, what we think we should do, what we will do, whether we think it's good or bad. We have a very square mind, yes? We know, we're kind of in a box, yes? This world feels very solid and very dense, yes? But there's a lot more going on. There's energy going on. If you feel your body, we feel we're solid, right? But if you look, we know well that there's blood, there's organs. We could feel our pulse. If something hurt, it throbs, right? The throbbing is an energetic impulse. If we're around a tree, if we hold a tree, it feels different if we hold lying on cement per se, correct? Each has a different energetic frequency, right? When we're in the middle of the woods, and if we let go and we feel that, and we lean into the energy of what the woods are, we calm our minds, and we just allow ourselves to feel what we feel. Open up our senses. Then if we go to a beach and we do the same, it feels different, doesn't it? If we're in the beach under an umbrella, it feels different than when we're in the sun. And that feels different energetically if we're doing that during the winter as opposed to the summer. Even if the temperature's about the same, doesn't it? So, as human beings, when we want to deepen our faith, there are many, many different paths. Some are similar, but with different ways of going about it among different religions on this planet. The most powerful ones that I have learned deal directly with sacred words and sacred vibrations. By saying certain things or thinking certain things, it creates habits and energies and propensities to do something more. Like if somebody's all into violent video games and into violent movies and violent thoughts, they're living on a violent frequency. They might be more prone to having fights or react in anger, right? It's just what you're around. If you were raised by very peaceful people, the chances are you'd be extremely peaceful. If you were raised by missionaries, chances are you might be a missionary, right? You would maybe be more into charities or not, but the chances are that you would be. If we go into vibrations of sacred words, and the names of God are the most sacred words and syllables that exist on this planet. We go to the essence of all the teaching that is in the Bible. All the words, all the teachings are distilled in the sound and syllables and the names of God. That's just a truth. my word for it. And as you practice and pray more and come to a greater understanding, I think you will understand that being the case. Everything that is of a high vibration, that is loving, caring, wise, compassionate, strong, healing, is embodied in the names of God. From the Judeo-Christian Islamic tradition, because we all come from the same source, we all believe in the Old Testament, we all believe in the God of Abraham. We believe that the source of divinity, of what created this planet, the reason we're here, where we came from and where we're returning, God willing, is God, Yahweh, Abba, Allah, Hashem, Adonai. There's many different names. The names are literally ground zero of our connection. We could learn all the teachings in the world and still have a problem connecting with them. And was my problem. And I think it's a lot of people's problems. How do we feel it? How do we make the change? God has given us, through ancient traditions, practices on how to connect deeper with Him. And I believe the most powerful practice that we can do, and these types of practices are the most powerful practices that I have encountered in my studies, is by reciting the names of God. It is a form of prayer. Just saying the names of God is a form of prayer in and of itself. It connects us directly with Him. If I'm in a crowd and somebody says my name, I turn around, right? Our name gets our attention versus somebody else's name. I would just continue whatever I'm doing, right? If I have a child and he screams my name, I would turn around so fast and then run in the direction of his voice, right? Or her voice. So does God. It's all over the Bible. So when we say His name, and we say it always with love, care, and real respect, these are considered extremely, extremely sacred, and Orthodox Jews do not say them. They say the name Hashem for the name of God, and it means the name with a capital N and a capital T. Because they viewed saying actual names of God are too sacred to be uttered from human lips. Given what I've learned through other traditions, that these names of God, and it's also in keeping of ancient Jewish traditions, the names of God can be said respectfully because they contain great power. That's why you actually say them, because you could engender great growth in your faith, great actions in this world, great healing by tapping in with the name of God, because there is no greater name than that. And I understand there's a little bit of a chicken and the egg going on here. You kind of have to believe to say the name in order to want to say the name and then get the benefit. But if one says the name, one will grow in faith. But then if you don't have faith, then you wouldn't say the name. Well, I think there's a lot of people here listening who are searching for deepen and to understand their purpose in life and to connect with something deeper than themselves. So as I teach today and explain this, I would just ask you to have an open mind. And there is no harm in trying it. There's no commitment. There's no commitment to anything I speak about. There are offerings of suggestions, but try it with an open mind. I swear to you, it will do you no harm. And see if things change and see if it speaks to you, if it works for you. And it's reaching out, even if you don't know exactly what you're reaching out to, even if you're not even sure you really believe in God, or you're like, I'm not sure. Well, that's an open question. So call. Hey, are you there? Hello? I really want to get to know you better. And beyond that, just say them and see how you feel in your body. Like at the beginning, we calmed our minds. Then do a couple practices of the names. And then see how you feel different. How you feel the next day. Does it help you? Does it change and help you feel better, healing, have a better day? Does your mind feel better? Are your interactions doing better? Are some of the issues you have in your life get resolved, or you find new ways of resolving issues? These are the benefits of the name. As well as you grow closer to God. If one deepens and becomes devout, that's the purpose of religious devotion. The names it's a path of devotion. It's you devote yourself to God. So, as people of faith, or growing faith, or desire to connect deeper, how do we go about that? How do we? The easiest and the most powerful way is to connect with ground zero of what underlines all of this, and that is the divinity. And one is able to connect and resonate with that, then it is very easy to be able to connect and love your God with all your heart, the devotion and love you have for God, with all your soul, I guess your entire immortal being, and with all your mind. Your conscious and subconscious, well, hopefully subconscious thoughts are directed to living a good life. By the mind being directed in that way, your heart and desires are also directed in that way. If your mind's directed in another way, your heart often and your actions would be directed in another way. You see? And how to go about it is to touch into the Spirit of God, into the energy of God. And the most powerful and potent way to do that is to say the name. When one says a name of God, it is like taking the plug. Imagine there's a plug in our body, and putting in like an electrical socket of God, and we connect to that energy of God. It's like you have a fan, you want it to run, right? You put it in the pocket, in the socket, and it connects to the fan and it runs because the energy flows. By saying the name of God, just by the act of saying it, we are connecting to the frequency of God. That is a truth. It's really not, it's just what it is. By saying the name of God, we connect with the energy of God, period. Next line, next paragraph, underline. It is the fastest way to change, to heal, to ask for forgiveness, and to grow. It's like a rose. You're watering it and it grows. The water is using the name of God. It's like the fertilizer. It helps you grow faster than anything, because in it is endued with all the blessings. You necessarily don't even need to study that much, because the energy will propel you to higher vibrations. And as you move into higher vibrations, your actions will shift accordingly. More generous, more loving, more caring, more thoughtful about your life, and on the right path. So when you go to your deathbed eventually, you have no worries, because you've been living in the presence of God your whole life, and you're like, oh, I'm going off. Because you realize that you're alive inside, and it just doesn't die. Your body falls away, but that's not who you are. And you've come to that realization through your prayers, through your studies. But the knowledge isn't just in your head. You know it with a capital K. You know it with beyond a doubt. How do you get to that? Through prayer, through working on it. But also that leads you to a connection. And just like calling somebody's name in the crowd, God hears his name. And the names have a vibration. The vibration of those names heal us. They work in our body. Even if we say it out loud, it blesses the whole room. We say it inside, it blesses inside. But then our energy goes out in the room. So our energy would be in the whole space. Yes, that is real. It is not out there 1970s, whatever. It is real. Our world, we think it's very dense, but just one step behind the density is a world of vibration and energy, and we emit it. Sometimes I've gone into a room very happy, and it's full of people arguing in the past. And 5 minutes later, I'm snapping on someone. It is not in my character to snap on someone. It really isn't. And I'm like, what in the world happened? And I just picked it up. That's happened to people, right? You've gone into a room really angry or upset, and the people are loving and laughing, and 5 minutes later you forget why you're loving, why you're upset, or even that you were upset at all, because you're just all into it, right? This is the influence of our energies. Yes. So by tapping into the frequency of God, we receive all the blessings. So this person asked a very good question. Can you explain the different names of God and their meanings? Each name of God, and we've only been discussing 5 or 7, but there are 72 different names of God, and some just have the attributes of God. This is ancient Hebrew teachings. These are the 72 ancient Hebrew teachings of the names of God from the Old Testament. They're all in the Old Testament. When they're translated, often in English or other languages, they use the word God. But if you go into translations of the Bible that keep more of the Jewish names, you realize that God is not said as God. It uses a lot of the other names of God in the Old Testament and even in the New Testament. And I'll go into that in a minute. So each one is a certain type of a name of God. So I'm going to start listing a few and dive into this. So we're going to start with the names of God in a certain order. There's a certain vibrational sense of the names. So the first name, and it sort of be in the first name that kind of, how to explain? There's sort of like a God, the sort of grandfather. When we think of God the Father from an Old Testament perspective, we think of Yahweh. So Yahweh is the God of the Old Testament. But there's also Abba. His vibration is more like of a grandfather God. But they have all the same abilities of action, of healing or guidance or whatever. But at least for me, when I say the name, it has a certain vibration. So if you focus, and if it's okay with you and your religion to say the name with me, just as you say it, see what you feel and what comes to you, okay? Abba, 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 Abba. So this calls in the vibration of Abba, God the Father. Are you able to feel a little bit in your body how that feels? How it maybe made you feel more relaxed? Or it takes time to get a felt sense of this practice. So you are basically plugging yourself into the Abba frequency directly by using his holy name. The sound Abba is a frequency, and as you say it out loud, it fills your body. It clears things out. Think of like sound therapy with sound bowls or certain, frequency sounds that affect the brain in certain ways. This is sacred sound and sacred frequency. There is nothing more powerful than this. Because it's not just a sound, it's actually the divine name of God. So it's full of blessings. And it calls God to reach down and through us to fix it, the divine blessings. God to notice this. God is conscious. These names are conscious. These sounds are conscious. They're just not like table or lamp. That's a description of something, right? It's a lamp, right? Abba is a conscious sound that has consciousness in it. There are certain spiritual traditions that the actual name has embedded in it consciousness. This has the consciousness of God, so it's completely safe and reliable. God is perfection. God is all loving. God is caring. God loves his children. That's the keeping of God in the Old and New Testament and in the Quran. Now, especially in the Old Testament, there's God the wrathful and everything else, but if you read those passages, he was disciplining his children when they sort of went off and did their thing and did some horrible things to try to bring them back in the path so they could be saved. Do you see? It's not that he's inherently wrathful and mean and abusive. That's not the case. He's the good father who sometimes has a little bit of a father's discipline to him. You see? So, okay. So that's what I describe is a very Yahweh trait. But let's go into, so there's Abba, so there's Elohim. Okay? Elohim, Elohim, Elohim. Elohim, 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 Elohim. So, Abba, very expansive, right? Abba, very open, great to relax with, right? It's a lot of blessings there. I haven't given the teaching on what's in Abba yet. Lot, Elohim, different, right? When I see that, I see somebody in a very nice suit, impeccably manicured and upright, right? Just very prim and proper, high vibrational, sharp, warm Elohim. Another aspect of God. You say that name, you may get a slightly different reaction in your body. Something that you maybe are drawn to more, or you feel in certain times that's the name that you should say. If you need to focus or need more wisdom, that's the name you would say. And it changes from person to person and from time to time. Elohim is said 2,570 times in the Old Testament. Okay? So Abba literally means father. Abba is literally father, capital F. Elohim is God as creator, preserver, transcendent, mighty, and strong. Then there's Adonai. Adonai, 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 Adonai. So when I say that, I feel like that's something I would say if I was prostrating myself. It has such devotion and I feel such devotion when I say that name. It's a quality that's like gold, warm, just like a sacred church or temple. You just feel the energy of divinity, just present, just everywhere. It's a different frequency. It means master or Lord. It's said 300 times in the Old Testament. Okay. All right. So these are sort of the upper tier of God. And then you have the version of God that we're most familiar with, which is Yahweh. Yahweh is said 6,828 times in the Old Testament. That's a lot of times. It's the most commonly referred name of God. It means He is. So God actually called Himself this in the Old Testament when He spoke to Moses on the Mount. And it comes from the Hebrew word to be. Yahweh means to be. The English Bible often translates as Lord. Capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D. There's a lot of different levels to the name of Yahweh. Let's just say it together. Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. It's a very powerfully energetic name. Very present. This is the version of God that has been one of the most present on this planet. Yahweh is the version of God that created us. It's God the Creator, God of the Old Testament. So in certain situations, I would say Yahweh, and sometimes I would say another name, or sometimes I just focus on this name because it's very, very, it has certain qualities, and it may change with time. One day it's this name, another day it's that one, or after a couple of months you go to one or the other. Or you might start reciting a name, and then 15, 20 seconds later you just spontaneously change to another name. That is okay, that's perfectly fine, happens with me. The energy in your body shifts, and it allows you to move to the name that you will recite the most, and that's fine. Say a little bit more about that in a moment. Then the next level is the Emmanuel level. Emmanuel, interestingly enough, is only mentioned, from what I researched, once in the Old Testament and once in the New. Emmanuel means God amongst us, because it's the manifestation of God that is here, present with us. It's the compassionate manifestation of God, the outheld hand. Then it doesn't mean that the other energies of God does not have his hand outheld. It just means this version is particularly focused on that. The manifestation of forgiveness and charity. Emmanuel manifestations are, if they are fully perfected, are full manifestations of God on this planet. It is literally Yahweh amongst us, the compassionate manifestation of God. Really connected with this planet. Does that make sense? So there'll be a different type of reaction when you say that name. It's a frequency of God that has certain characteristics. And as you say and you find the name that works with you, you feel certain characteristics. So if you're looking for more healing, it might be Emmanuel. Emmanuel, 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 Emmanuel. Or it could be, when you say the word rapha, it means that healeth, to heal. So it puts the manifestation of healing particular, like so, Yahweh rapha, Yahweh rapha, Yahweh rapha. It's the healing qualities of Yahweh. So Emmanuel rapha, Emmanuel rapha, Emmanuel rapha. They feel different to me. So with practice, one learns to work with these energies, these divine energies. So it's no longer up to us. I think that's what I'm trying to share here. It takes some of the pressure off of us. We don't need to be an Olympian level spiritual being or saint to get to this level. We can use these names to infuse ourselves with this divine energy which propels us to that. It's not only on us. We have the wind of God and His Spirit at our back. We don't have to go out looking for it or trying to find it. Just by saying the name, we are there. We have it. Period. How do you develop this level of faith? Through practice. Hopefully you trust me enough to try it for yourself. But true faith, the solid faith, that's unbreakable faith, it's because you've experienced it. It's faith through experience. You need faith to try it. I hope I've given you enough faith to try it. And that's a leap of faith. But ultimately, after you leap and you land on solid ground and you realize, oh my God, it is what it is, then that's faith based in experience. And that's extremely powerful. Because then you can rely on it. You can channel that because you're not iffy about it. But even if you are uncertain, it's the blessings of those names that give you that current regardless. You don't need to be an Elapian cyclist to get the oomph from it, because the names in itself has the blessing. It's like a 10-speed bike. You go on it, you're going to go fast. There we are, because it's a 10-speed bike. Versus, you don't do the name, well, it might be a little slower in a different way. It might take you a couple years to get that fast, or a couple, whatever. The name really holds you, and it's personal to you because you're saying it. A different time, a different place, a different person. It may be different. It might feel differently based on what you need then. It's conscious, it's alive. It has the essence of divinity. There are manifestations of Emmanuel. There could have been millions, or only a handful. But that doesn't mean there isn't Emmanuel as your cashier at your corner grocery store that just spreads the love in her way, but is a highly conscious spiritual being that's having a human experience, and her manifestation or his manifestation or a child's manifestation is just very local. We are all Emmanuels. It's just to what level are we able to manifest it? To what level of purity are we able to manifest the spiritual power that we're all born with? The wisdom, the knowledge, the desire to study and to learn and to practice. So maybe one day you teach people like I'm doing now. Or to help heal people. You know, when I was learning to do these visitations of sacred names, I had just begun to learn. And, you know, it's an example. My cat was dying. Kidney failure. Horrific. And I love this cat very dearly. Been single for many years. In a lot of ways, that was my companion. And I was less depressed, less lonely. And I wanted to use sacred names to heal him. I quickly learned that I didn't know what I was doing, or didn't have the ability or the oomph to do it, because I had just begun. And I said, you know what? This is God showing me that I need to learn this. So next time something like this happened, I could maybe manifest some sacred healing energy. And yes, these things do exist. Yahweh Rapha, Yahweh that heals. It puts forth the spiritual energy of that sacred name. So, the next time I needed it, my father was dying. Got real then. And he was sort of in between. He could have gone either way. How do I know that? Well, when you practice a while, you're able to see things. A lot of density, but possibilities. So I prayed with him. He didn't really pray. He never went to church. You know, he was definitely in the gray. So when he lifted, he definitely went to heaven. Because I saw his energy get lighter and lighter and lighter. When one works with energy, one starts being able to sense it better. Does that make sense? So you're able to see how it manifests. You're able to sort of see. So we're able to have an ability that's greater than ourselves, because we have that birthright. We are all children of God. We're all on the path of becoming Emmanuels. We can manifest God's charity and love and healing amongst us, but are we able to tap into that energy that's ever present? If we are sick, a serious illness, let's say a cancer, can we pray over our medicine? So it's endued with divine healing properties. So it's not just the chemotherapy pills, but it's also putting in God's energy into it, that it becomes super potent, that we have less side effects and greater healing abilities. It is possible. Like Yahweh Rapha, you pray into the bottle, you blow the energy of that, and you keep it on your altar, and you take the pills from your altar and you pray over them. It's combining spirituality and religion and modern medicine. Most of the spiritual great faiths combine both. It's not just alternative or spiritual, and it's not just modern. When you do both, my teacher said, then you've got a potent combination. Because you're taking in a divine source of energy. It takes a leap of faith to try it. But after you try it and you get the sense of it, and you feel the change, then you become a believer. So it's like a chicken and the egg. You need the faith to try it, but by trying it, you get the faith. So this is the most potent form of spirituality, because it goes right into the energy of divinity. Plugs you right into the source, which has all these benefits, like a plug to God. It plugs you right in. You don't have to go fumbling. You don't have to go searching for the socket or right teaching or go to the right place, the right cave. These are the direct names of God. There's other names, and we'll get to them in the future. But I focused on these because these are the principles. And if you're an Orthodox Jew, I have said all this very respectfully, and I hope you understand that I feel that in this world that's so dense and condensed and so hard for people to follow religions or spiritual paths, that these names really need to be brought forth today to be a particular assistance, because the name in itself will unlock so much. And for Orthodox Jews, it's Hashem, the name. It's not in the Bible because it's done through tradition of not wishing to use the 72 names, so they call it Hashem. But by sheer repetition of the name and saying it with devotion, it has gained a power as a name of God. God listens. It doesn't say, oh, you got my name wrong. My name is Marcus, you said Mark. God, that's, what I'm saying? God will start listening to Marcus if people, start saying that as opposed to his name Mark. Do you see what I mean? It's God wants his children to connect. He wants us to reach out. Those chapters are all over the Old and New Testament and in the Muslim texts. So I think, just to say one thing, Allah, it's a little different. The Muslims don't recite the names like they do in Judaism or Christianity. They just describe what God is. So they would only say Allah, which has sort of all the qualities of God in that one name. It plugs you in. So the next level, briefly, which is the next step, which I haven't really ever shared. How do we do this practice? So it's the way I've shared, say it a couple times, have a pause, try to steady your mind. We'll go into that next week. There's another way. Since the names of God is a current and an energy, we are trying to use this to heal any energies that are out of alignment with God. This is where it gets profound. Everything I've said is pretty profound, very sacred, because it's just everything dealing with this topic is extremely sacred. But here is where, so anything that's out of alignment with God can be healed with these names because of what I've described earlier. So any vibrations or energies in the body that aren't in keeping with that can be changed by saying the name. One way to do this, it's quite effective, and you do it slowly over time if you choose to. It's especially strong at night, 3 a.m. if you wake up, 4 a.m. if you're sort of semi-awake, half asleep, you're about to go to sleep. Between being awake and being asleep, that sort of intermediate place, very powerful spiritual place. You're sort of in between the worlds, the physical conscious world and the more energetic sleep state, where you could do a lot of religious and spiritual work in, when you have the abilities and the instruction on how to do it. During that space, if you calm your mind and you say slowly, so I use Yahweh in this, Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. You could even say it quietly, and it's actually more powerful saying it inside your mind, but you feel the vibration of it as you say it inside your mind. Yes, that's possible. It just takes practice. And that's all you do. You just say it slowly. You hear it. You feel it. You feel it resonate through your body. You could say it continuously for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, if you feel good doing it. For me, it relaxes me. But that is, if you look at what it's doing to your body, that's my thoughts stop. And that vibration in the sacred name is what's radiating through my body. It heals, it calms the mind. You have a deeper, more refreshing sleep. Takes away trauma. It realigns yourself. All we're trying to do in every religion, any religion, is to align ourselves with the divinity we're praying towards. The greater the union, the greater the connection, the greater we're able to manifest it in this world. The greater that we're able to love, then the greater you're able to love your neighbor. It all becomes much easier. And then you go home to God because you've been living in His vibration here. There is no fear of death anymore. You do what you feel is best here in keeping with God. And then you go on. You see? Try to live a good life. Help God guide you to where He feels you should be doing. Doesn't need to be a spiritual life, but you're a good employer. You're a good employee. You're good to your husband, your wife. You're good to your children. What do you put out in the world? Are people happier after having met you? What's your manifestation? Our prayer should be to become a manifestation of Emmanuel, God amongst us, to the extent that we're capable of being. So by saying it when we're on the train or in bed, please don't do it when you're driving. You could say, because you don't want to lose focus and crash the car, but you, especially, just say before you go to sleep, Emmanuel, Emmanuel, Emmanuel. That is a prayer. It's a prayer. It's a complete prayer. And the sound and the energy is divine. So you don't even need to say anything other than that, because God knows. He knows what you need, what you don't need. He knows exactly how to guide you. By saying it, you're being read. But then it doesn't hurt to say something if you wish to. But really what I'm saying with this is you just say it and it runs through your body. And it's like, I don't know, you have a harsh day and you go into that beautiful hot tub in the backyard that's 107 degrees, a little glass of wine, and you just relax and melt away and everything is good afterwards. This is what this is. Except it clears up everything of the mind, subconscious, conscious. It gives you clarity. It helps the energy flow better. It unhooks energy blockages in the body, so you're less maybe emotional, less anger, less resentful, less jealous. These are all energy blocks in the body. I've spoken about them before. So it clears at a fundamental cellular level energetically. So you could say it softly out loud a little bit, but it's most powerful when you develop the ability to say it inside. But you you feel the vibration inside of you of the words in the syllable, and you kind of feel it spread throughout your body, so that vibration of that sound of that word, the sacred name, goes throughout the body. It's the current. Do you see? We're working with divine current. It is the most powerful practice that I know. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? Well, lo and behold, often the most powerful and effective practices are the most simple ones, because you're connecting literally with ground zero of it. This is ground zero. If you practice this, you will go very far. And of course, add in traditional elements. You study at home, very helpful. Always good to learn and to understand things. Pray normally, oh God, thank you for today. Always good to give thanks. Always give thanks. Please always give thanks. Even when you ask something, but always see the blessings that you do have. It's a good relationship not to always ask. And often just saying the names is just saying, I want to be in your energy stream, without asking anything. But that's devotion. That's laying yourself before God. And there's nothing to fear. God is all forgiving. What you've done in the past is the past. What God cares about is, what are you going to do today? What are you going to do tomorrow? And what's your intent? Do you wish to get better? Do you wish to do better? Then focus on that. Don't let the past hold you back. Focus on being better. Because you should try to do better without even, honestly, people, ultimately the highest level of doing something is you want to do it with no reward. You do it without anybody noticing. You do it because it's the right thing to do. And that makes it so powerful and makes it very worthy of reward. But that's not why you do it. Do you see? It's a little counterintuitive. So do and be better, even if you think you might never be forgiven for what you've done. That's truly being altruistic. That's truly walking the path. Because you're walking it because you want to walk it, because it's the right thing. Lo and behold, you might find forgiveness at the end. And it's never too late. And you try it for anyone. You're lost, you don't know what spirituality, you stumbled across my teachings, you don't like God, you feel He's wronged you or whatever. Okay, that's legit. That's where you are. I have nothing negative to say about that. That's just your reality. Great, that's your reality. Fine. Do you want to see if there's something maybe different than that? That there might be a healing, or realize the persons who did that, or your view of things, isn't really what God intended? So find out for yourself. Do these prayers and see what happens, what changes in your relationship. Give it a try. You could always stop. I think that's what I really want to say. Give it a try. I think I've given a very detailed explanation in a sort of different way than I normally teach. It felt like a little more academic and a little more structured. But I wanted people to really kind of understand in a clear way what I'm trying to say, and to encourage people. And my great prayer is that you give it a try. It takes a while to sometimes get that energetic feel back. Like I say it 5 times and I feel it. Well, I've been doing things and similar things for many, many years. But it necessarily doesn't take many years to be able to achieve it. It could take a couple times, a couple weeks. You feel a little bit and you feel, oh, there's something there. I want to continue this. And honestly, it feels like you're coming home. Because whether we realize it or not, we are. There's great strength now to more ancient forms of God. The Abbas, the Yahwehs, the Elohim, the El Shaddai. One begins to understand this as one does these prayers. And I really, really please encourage everyone to please try them. Okay? And go gently. I just want to say, if somebody has psychological disorders like schizophrenia, bipolar, and things of that nature, please remain grounded. Please take medicine if you need it. And if you feel that, you're not certain whether this will be good for you, please consult your doctor. When one has these sort of challenges, these medical challenges, one needs to make sure that one stays grounded in one's thinking and doesn't become manic. For somebody who doesn't have these conditions, I don't believe these practices will make anyone manic. But if you have a tendency of having these issues, please consult with your doctor. And if you do it and you start feeling a little ungrounded, then, stop it for a while or consult with someone. What we're connecting with here is into the energy of the world, the real energy that underlines everything on this planet. And we're connecting with the divine energy. And it heals. Everything that's unhealed is a blockage in our system. It's a disconnect of the divine energy. In the Garden of Eden, in the book of Genesis, when Adam did what he did, we separated from God. By saying the names, we reconnect. This is really the path of devotion, the path of the heart. By saying these names, we connect directly with the heart and mind and the loving grace and forgiveness of God. And the more we do it with devotion and in love and in belief and with dedication, the greater these graces and blessings flow. When one says these names, one feels it very deeply. And as one starts these names, I think one begins to understand and feel the love and commitment. All of these is devotion and love of God. It is the most powerful path, religious path. You use the heart and your energy. The heart of love and devotion is the strongest energy we have in our body. It overcomes so much. So thank you for listening today, and I wish you all a wonderful week.